Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to A Brilliant Businesses podcast. My name is Nick Bryant, and I've been trying to get this gentleman on the podcast for a long, long time. So I'm really pleased to be joined by Lorenzo Colangelo today. Hey, Lorenzo.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for coming in.
You're welcome.
So Lorenzo is from The Gallery, which is a hairdressing salon in Tunbridge Wells, in Southborough, Tunbridge Wells. Now, since opening its doors in 1985, it's become one of the UK's leading salons, where their clients expect nothing but the best when they come in the doors. Now, I first told Lorenzo's story about 3 years ago, and I have to say it's one of the most engaged stories I've ever put out on social media. I think it's been seen like 40,000 times, or shared 60 times, all these lovely comments. You're a popular man in Tunbridge Wells.
Oh, gosh. Shucks.
Yeah. So I want you to tell that story again, if that's okay, the way your father came over and introduced the gallery.
I mean, I've had to tell this story a lot of times. I've never realised quite how popular it would be, but my dad's a very popular guy. He came over from Italy in 1958, and he worked in private houses. Basically, his history was in private houses, working for Lord Astor.
Wow.
Worked for the Hussies at Scotney Castle, and he was kind of a private valet. But he was trained as a barber and a tailor in his hometown of Torrecuso in Benevento in Italy.
Yeah.
And he came over with minimal English, in fact no English, but kind of fell into these roles as butler and valet for private houses, and you know he's that kind of guy who's very discreet but very larger than life. People like having him around, and that's always been the way. And basically, when he left his last position of that at Scotney Castle in 1971, I believe it was, he worked in salons. So.
Right.
He decided to try and make a go of his barbering career, and long story short, he ended up with purchasing a salon in Southborough.
Yeah.
He called it Barnet Fair.
Yeah.
And the salon was, it was by no means smart, but it was a great place. I remember going in there from school, going to see clients, going to see my mum and dad, because my mum worked there as well.
Yeah.
And I naturally kind of like fitted into that environment, and I kind of felt very at home there.
Yeah.
There was nothing special about it, but it was much like a living room.
Right.
But it was very busy. My dad set this up with a big Italian heart, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, people
Yeah.
felt welcome. You know what it's like. You go into a great Italian restaurant, and they know what you want.
Yes.
They know where you sit. It's less about the food, but about the welcome and about the amazing experience, really, and that sense of belonging. So he was, he set this up, and it was a great place, and and I knew that at that point that I was going to probably take up a career in hairdressing.
Yeah.
And I kind of fell into it. I was engaged with the clients who used to visit him. And he used to get some proper cars parked outside.
Yes.
There were Bentleys out there. There were really nice, smart Porsches.
Yeah.
And I thought, these guys can afford to go anywhere.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
For their hair. And they're choosing to come to this tiny little salon in Southborough. And my background was a little bit more kind of like in businesses in London, in salons in London, and around that were a little bit more profit focused, let's say, more financially kind of like astute, very strategy based businesses. And the more I worked in those, I kind of felt less comfortable in that environment. But I saw the value in it because, of course, they were great businesses.
They did well, yeah.
But it wasn't long really before I saw that there was a great correlation really to be had between great customer service and a bit of a business strategy.
Yeah.
So, combining the two was really where I stepped things up a little bit at the salon, keeping and maintaining those core values really around putting people at the heart of what we do. Great customer service but quite genuine customer service. It's not forced. It's not like, waiters with sort of like
trying to impress
towels over
you.
their arms. It's not that. It's just genuine knowing people and understanding people and listening to people.
Yeah.
And and the business kind of grew. I took over in 1995 from my dad officially.
Yeah.
And then we grew the business. Every 5 years, it seemed to be there was no strategy around that, but things came about every 5 years where we would either refurbish the salon, or I was able to buy another chunk of the property.
Yes. Yeah.
And then to that end, really, in 2018, we ended up owning the entire site.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a big place,
so
it's no longer the small little salon. It's a strong and big business, really. We see a lot of customers every week.
Yeah, yeah.
And many of those were original
from
clients.
the beginning.
Right from the beginning.
Right.
And, and we always reminisce when they come in.
Yes.
We always say, do you remember when?
Yeah.
My dad used to serve little coffees with in misshapen cups.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So now it's all smart trays and
Yes.
nice biscuits
Yeah.
and, a gin and tonic or a
Yeah.
Prosecco. But in his day, it was a little coffee from a cafetiere with a glass of grappa on the side.
Really? Yeah.
And that's what they remember.
Yeah, yeah.
And it wasn't long before I realised that's why those guys were parking up outside.
They wanted the grappa.
They wanted the grappa, and it was good grappa as well.
Yeah.
If there is such a thing, I don't like it personally, but it's a strong drink.
It just shows you the importance of actually a bit of a personalised service from what your father was used to, was dealing with people like the Astors, isn't it?
100%.
Showing them that real care.
Yeah, it's that care, and I think it's just that comfort around being around people, because there's some, I think we struggle with that in this country a little bit.
Yeah.
Genuine kind of like welcoming people. I mean, my mum and dad lived just up the road from here, actually, in Dudley Road.
Yes.
And they always had people round.
Yeah, yeah. Always
there was
entertaining.
always people in the house, and it was never a lavish dinner party or anything like that. There would be a bowl of pasta, but there would always be food, and there would always be people in the house.
Yeah.
And kind of that filtered through into the business a little bit. I don't think you can ever replicate that.
No.
You couldn't try to do that.
No.
It would have to come naturally.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm fortunate enough to have seen that from a very young age, and kind of have that.
Adopted it.
Yeah. And and it's kind of like been inherited to me, and even in my family, people say the same of our house,
Do they? Yeah.
So it's a great thing to continue, and I'm very, very, very privileged to have been part of that and to have that mixed Italian English culture, born into me, really. So.
Nice, yeah. So 1995 you took it
Yep.
over to today. Now there must have been some challenges along the way from doing that from then till now.
Oh my God!
Probably COVID, one of them.
Well, COVID was a massive milestone in our business. It was a big turning point. But even prior to that, the business challenges, I think, are the bigger you get, the bigger the problems in a way. And one of the main things for me has always been team and maintaining a really strong team that have bought into values and bought into really what we're trying to achieve and the purpose of why we're there.
Yeah.
And that is to basically make people look and feel better.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
themselves.
It's to make people happy. And that sounds quite simple, but actually, I think when you've all got your own issues and people come to work and can have their own problems, it's a hard thing to give a great service when perhaps you're carrying your own challenges. So, excuse me, it's one of those things. So, I think continually trying to grow a team, develop them into well-rounded, great hairdressers with a strong creative ability as well as a strong emotionally intelligent one is quite a tough ask.
Yeah.
But that mixed with financial challenges that we're facing currently with increased costs and
energy costs
and paying off COVID basically. We were closed for a long time throughout there. In fact, we were one of the only industries to close as long as we one of the longest closed businesses. So that's been a challenge, but at the same time such an amazing eye opener, and the opportunities that arise from such difficult times is something that I've been lucky enough, I think, to see past and to see beyond.
Yeah, that's awesome. How many staff have you got now?
We've got 26 staff in total up there. Yeah. And there's a mixture of that, mixed part-time. You know, a lot of our team have been with us for a lot of years. You know, many of the girls are now mums. And they
go through maternity.
Go through maternity. And they've created such a core part of our team. And I'm so lucky to have those girls there because, you know, they come to work with a very different attitude. You know, they've done a day's work before they've turned up to work in many cases, and they're happy to be at work. And you know, and they never cease to amaze me with the energy and the passion for their job is just incredible, and it's great to see and to facilitate. Actually, I'm really proud of that element of my business, you know, and it's credit to them.
It's quite telling actually from your website and your social media posts about how important staff are, because there is quite often a joint photograph with all of you together, and you're like a massive family. And even when you're doing your social media posts, it does come across like a family. Yeah, well, you know, it's the number one. It's our number one core value. And you know, this is something that, you know, we did recently. Actually, we did an exercise, a collaborative exercise where. We formed our core values, and I didn't want that to be, you know, we had things filtered through from my dad, that, you know, I've always struggled with trying to verbalise that to the team, and it wasn't long before, you know, I was coached actually into forming collaborative values that basically formed by the team. I had no say. Right. Okay. So you know, we were sort of bombarded with a load of words. You know, we all individually had to think about our challenges in business, think about our successes, what helped you get there, what, you know, who helped you overcome challenges, and within that, we got bombarded with a load of words and words that jumped out at you. Really creative. It's a really great way of doing it, and you know, and again, when it's formed by the team, you know, they're far more accountable for that. You know, their words and behaviours chosen by the team, and family, of course, came up as number one core value. And I think, you know, it's an overused word in many businesses, but in ours, it genuinely is. You know, it's a word that is very authentic to our business. Now you're up. Well, you seem to be winning lots of awards over the while, but you're up for Director of the Year. Is that right? And along with also Salon Manager of the Year for Becky, who's been with me for, nearly 17 years now. Wow. Okay. Right. And the team are up for a Salon Team of the Year as well. Amazing. Yeah, you must be very proud. Really proud. I mean, this is, you know, these choices of going for these things again. It's a collaborative thing. You know, it's about the purpose of our business is not just a creative one. It's not just about day to day. It's about actually, let's leave a bit of a legacy. Let's have let's do something great in the time that we've got. And that's really kind of something that you know, I feel really strongly about. It's being very purpose driven but human centered. Yes, that's a real part of your core values, isn't it? Yeah, it's about forming, you know, collaborative goals, collaborative values, but always putting people at the heart of what we do. Always, whether that be customers, whether that be team, or whether that be family. You know, it's a huge part of what I believe in. Sure. And then what comes with that is obviously enjoyment as well, isn't it? For work satisfaction for all of your staff and for yourself. Yeah, we have a lot of fun. I mean, you know, it's an amazing environment. Being in a hairdressing salon for a day, you know, people would it's just you can't verbalise how amazing it is. And you guys are like therapists as well to people, aren't you? And like therapists to each other. I mean, it's like, you know, it's an incredible environment. And you know, when you're dealing with people at such an intimate level, it's kind of, you know, you can't fail but to form really great relationships. And this is something that, you know, technology in industry in general, AI, you know, there's massive sort of like talk around these things taking over businesses. And, you know, it's one thing for sure that you can never take over in hairdressing is
that purely because you can't cut hair AI yet.
Yeah.
But that human connection, you know, like that sense of belonging, sense of contact is just amazing. And this was evident through the lockdown period. You know, one of the most talked about things was how long people's hair had got, how their roots had got so long. Yeah. You know, it was amazing who got their haircut first. You know, after lockdown, and one of the main things was that lack of connection. You know, it was an amazing time and something to witness of elevating our profession for sure, because it was really sorely missed during that time.
Of course, yeah, very much so. What's your plans? Are you looking to? Have you ever thought about having another location?
I've looked and talked about this for many years. Yeah. It's always something that's been on our radar. It's always something that I've been open to. I've never ventured myself to do that because it's having the right person, the right team, the right dynamic, and the right magic in that new location. I think in establishing values and establishing a really strong business model, I think it becomes even more easy, or it becomes more doable to do that. But it's all about, you know, the biggest challenges always are people and cash.
Yeah, right.
Always, in any business. You know what I mean? Like you can do a SWOT analysis on all sorts of elements of your business, but it will come down to people and cash. If you've got the right people and you've got the right amount of money at the right time, then of course, then it becomes possible. But, you know, I've never wanted to do that because personally, because I don't feel the need of diluting our business and diluting that magic. But if people in the team were really hell-bent on doing that, then that's something that we for sure could do, because I'd rather do that than lose good people.
Yes, yeah. So, I mean, therefore, growth isn't of interest. It's more about keeping things stable and doing a good job for what you've got you now. Because how can you grow any more?
For me, you know, there's a mission for customers, but as a business, you know, hairdressing has always been perceived as not such a great profession. It's a great profession and it's always an engaging one to talk about. Yeah. But in terms of professional status, it's still kind of deemed as being a lowly paid, lowly kind of like considered job. For me, growth isn't about having multi-locations. That's kind of, for me, a little bit egotistical, maybe, in some respect. I would rather each individual within my business grow to their maximum and push boundaries in terms of customer service, in terms of creative ability, and then charge for that. Yeah, right. Okay. You know, until we're seeing that way they can grow financially, that way they can grow individually as well as within a team and the business. I mean, you know, money's never been hugely important to me as an individual. Creative, kind of the creative side of the business has always been something that I'm very passionate about, but it takes profit to drive passion. Yeah, sure. And it takes passion to drive profit. So it's about balance for me. So as long as I maintain balance in my business, I want to grow it and elevate it to a position of that I feel that I've made a difference to our industry. Yeah, and so absolutely everyone gets it, who comes into your premises gets complete and utter value for money. I'd like to think that they do, and I mean our reviews are pretty exceptional, I have to say, and so I do believe that is the case. And you know, I think that the fact that some people have been coming to my dad over 50 years. I mean, you know, he's long retired now. Does he still play a part at all? Oh, does he mentor you? Does he tell you off? He did. My dad sadly has dementia now, which is, you know, he's had an incredible journey, and he's immensely proud. I mean, I have to say this, that one of my most proud moments as a business owner, as a hairdresser, was when we visualised winning the Salon of the Year award. The first thing I ever thought about, and this might sound a little bit cheesy to your listeners, but I always imagined being presented with an award and handing it to my dad.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
And that was just something I thought of, and it wasn't until I did that that I remembered that that's what I dreamt of.
Wow. Yeah. Right. Dream
I thought,
come true.
Oh my God, this is happening. And we then did that 3 years running for Salon of the Year, which was 2014, 15, and 16, and then we went into the Hall of Fame in the British Hairdressing Business Awards for winning that 3 times.
Wow.
And so he's a massive influence because he started things. He was the risk taker.
Yeah.
I've just grown what he started.
Yes.
So for me, I don't feel like I felt my job has been easy. I think as an Italian immigrant, really opening a salon in Southborough, in Tunbridge Wells, that was a big risk, and it was a big ask for someone like him. And he started it and he grew it, and he did amazingly, for where he was at.
Yeah, and what you said to me once was that what you brought to it was a touch of the West End to Tunbridge Wells as well.
I mean, that was my experience.
Yeah.
And I wanted to, my experience saw certain things that the West End were doing really, really well.
Yeah.
But the number one thing that they weren't doing was giving time to customers. For me, that was our biggest USP at the time. Was actually, do you know what? We're here. No one's telling us, from head office that we've got to be doing haircuts in 45 minutes or in half an hour. We write our own rules. So whatever works, we do, and all we do is just charge for that.
Yeah. Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and people are happy to pay it.
But they're happy to pay it. It is what it is. I never knowingly overcharge in the salon. We want to keep competitive, but equally, these things aren't cheap anymore.
No.
Along with nearly everything else.
Of course,
it's gone up, and that's why we have to deliver on a regular basis. You have to deliver on a not just a creative level, but on a personal level as well. And that consistency over the years is what helps, cement the foundations of the business.
Yeah, it's awesome. Lorenzo, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's really, really cool the way you speak passionately about the business, and you always have done. And I've no doubt that you will continue to make it an amazing success.
Well, you're very kind, and thank you so much for having me. I love the podcast. I love what you're doing with this as well, and giving exposure to local business is great.
Oh, cool.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, mate. So if anyone wants to get their hair cut, right, get down to the gallery.
Get to the gallery
in Tunbridge Wells. It's got a great website, I'm sure. Is there an online booking form or how?
There is. We're online at www.thegallerytw.co.uk, and there's an app of the Gallery TW on App Store.
Perfect. Okay, so everyone get themselves down there. So thanks again, Lorenzo, and we'll see you all for another podcast soon. Thanks, mate.
Thanks so much.